morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today it's time to take a look at another one of those Mega EX Pokemon that's gone and been doing some winning over in Japan. Yes, we know that some of these Mega Pokemon, like Lucario, and it now seems pretty obvious Absol, which may not have been the case a week ago, are just going to do winning. They do winning, that's what they do. They good at winning. Awesome. But there are some others around which aren't quite so obviously, look at me, look at all the winning I'm going to do. But you know what? Mega Heracross is coming out over the past couple of weeks going, well, you know, look at me. Like, maybe take me a little bit seriously. Mega Heracross could be very, very fun. And I agree. I think Mega Heracross could be rather fun indeed. Now, obviously, being a Mega Pokemon, it's going to give up free prizes, all right? So, your goal here is don't get KO'd, all right? And we've got a bunch of cards here which are going to help us not get KO'd. But anytime you're playing a Mega Pokemon EX, you need to make sure you're playing a bit of defense, a bit of keep away, because if you lose one of these bad boys, you give up free prizes. That is a less than ideal scenario. But we are starting with 280 HP on a Stage 1 Pokemon, which is frankly a pretty good start. And then for 2 energy, you do 100 damage. And if this Pokemon was damaged last turn, you do that much damage in addition to the 100 base. Now, we've had some rulings on this. Even if you heal up afterwards, you still add the damage. Even if you took the damage on the bench, you still add the damage. Either way, you good. We then got free energy, 170, and you discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. This second attack is not really what we're looking for, but there are going to be rare occasions where your opponent has got like 1 energy left in their deck, and if they don't hit it, they lose, and you can go fishing here and you might hit it and then they lose the game. Or they've just got 2 cards left in their deck, so you play this and then they deck out and then, you win. Yeah, that's actually pretty gosh darn good. In that regard, this is very cool, but this is an occasional use, nothing too much more. Excellent. However, the first attack we like very much indeed. It's only 2 energy, but it's one of those situations where essentially your opponent has to one-hit KO you, because if they don't one-hit KO you, you hit them back harder. You do more damage to them than they did to you. In fact, you do exactly 100 more damage to them than they did to you. Oh. Yeah. That's fun, ladies and gentlemen. That's very, very fun. There are issues here, and essentially the biggest issue with Heracross is, what if your opponent could one-hit KO? Well, that brings us to the other main Pokemon in the deck. It's Crustle. Like, I would love to sit here and tell you that Mega Heracross without Crustle is some amazing deck, but the reality is, it is a Mega Heracross Crustle deck. We're not just playing one Mega Heracross as a little tech, it is a basic Pokemon. 280 HP is awesome. We are playing a couple, it's a big part of the deck, but by the same token, this is one where you need Crustle to work. The Crustle, incidentally, from Destined Rivals, that prevents all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. And when you put these two side by side, you can see where we're going. Against an EX-heavy deck, a deck which is basically only playing EXs, in comes Crustle, and your opponent's going to be in for a bad time. Because you're blocking EXs. The thing is, against a non-EX deck, Crustle basically folds. Because you don't have a good way to deal with those single prizes, you need free energy, they're way more efficient than you. The attack is free energy 120, not affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. It doesn't really matter what the attack is, either you're blocking and you're winning, or you're not blocking and you're not winning. Fine, awesome, let's keep going. The thing is, against single prize decks here, this is where Heracross comes in absolutely wonderfully. Single prize decks are not going to be able to KO Heracross, so if they do too much damage, you just throw it right back at them, or you just sit there doing 170 and discarding the top 2 cards of their deck. Either way, I think we're in a fairly nice position here. These two Pokemon work very nicely together. If Crustle is going to work, just use Crustle. If Crustle isn't going to work, well, Heracross, as long as you're not being one-hit KO'd, is a fantastic Pokemon, but most of the things that are going to one-hit KO you are EXs, in which case Crustle's got your back. Oh, cool. We like this. Now, obviously, in terms of other Pokemon, we have to play Monkey Dory. Like, the goal here is that essentially your opponent can't one-hit KO you, so you're just sitting here doing big damage back. And oh yeah, while you're doing that, you might as well be healing damage off with Monkey Dory. That's a bit of a given. It's too good. You take 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon, pop it on your opponents. It's wonderful. And then Psyduck. Yeah, we're playing Psyduck. Look, Psyduck's not the most fun card in the world, and I know it's a bit annoyingly expensive and all of that. I don't really care. The reality is it stops Dusknoir. Stops other Pokemon who have to KO themselves to use their abilities, but mostly here it stops Dusknoir, and that's something the opponent can use to KO you. They can use Dusknoir in combination with other attacks to start going ahead and getting big KOs, so stop that. And then their chance of KOing you becomes an awful lot less. What have we got in terms of trainer cards we need to be looking at here? Well, I mean, mostly we are trying to make sure we're not getting KO'd. Obviously, our A-spec of choice here is Hero's Cape, because now it's even harder for your opponent to go ahead and get a KO, and that means that whether you're going for Crustle or Heracross, whichever one in this particular matchup is going to be the most useful, your opponent now needs 100 more damage to go and get a KO. Not saying they can't, I'm saying it's much less likely. And then we've actually got a new item card here, a wonderful item card, which... It's all... I'm already seeing this popping up in a bunch of decks. I think this might actually be legit. It's the Giant Ice Cream. Literally Jumbo Ice, or Jumbo Ice Cream is how it's called in Japan. But you heal 80 damage from your active Pokemon. The only caveat here is that you must have at least 3 energy on there. But that's fine, because your attackers need 3 energy anyway. So I think we're going to be okay. And then while we're here, obviously, in this regard, we're going to need Crispin. Crispin becomes a sneaky, really good supporter here, because what you can do is attach an energy while searching out one of a different type. And essentially, this just adds a bit of energy acceleration. Would we prefer better energy acceleration? Yes! Obviously, we'd prefer better energy acceleration. And if you've got any ideas, I'm all ears. But the reality is, grass is not a great... I know we've got other things, but they've been around for a little while and they ain't been that good. Reality is, this is what we've got in terms of energy acceleration. Well, I say that. We are also playing Turbo Energize. Just 1 copy. It's very much an early game, get a couple of extra energy on the field and then start blocking. But we are playing a copy of Turbo Energize here. Again, we would prefer better energy acceleration, but we don't have better energy acceleration, so, you know, there we go. Now, there are a couple of other tools that we need to mention here quickly that are in here as one-offs. We have Defiance Vest coming in. It's, you know, if you're behind on prizes, then the Pokemon this card is attached to takes 40 less damage. You're not always going to be behind on prizes, but a lot of the time you might give one up early because it does. Takes a couple of turns to get rolling, especially energy-wise here. And we've also got Luxurious Cape, which is basically exactly the same as Hero's Cape. And by exactly the same, I mean you can only attach it to a Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box, so it works on Crustle, doesn't work on Heracross, and it means you give up an extra prize, So it's actually a significantly worse version of it, but you know what? It's there, and that's what we need. Also worth noting, we do play Mist Energy. I think it's pretty clear that in the near future we might all be playing a lot more Mist Energy because it prevents effects of attacks. And effects of attacks could be removing energy, or it could be special conditions, or it could be damage counters, or it could be automatic KOs from Absol. Or, any other Pokemon, but let's face it, right now, we're all a little bit scared of Absol, especially after what happened last weekend in, a couple of tournaments over here in the West, so make no mistake about it, Mist Energy helps with a bunch of different stuff, but right now, one of the things it helps against is Absol, and that's a fairly big deal. Here's the deck list as a whole, and it looks a lot like you would expect, 4 Lily's Determination, 4 Arven, bunch of Boss's Orders, some Iono, all the kind of stuff we would generally expect. But what stands out here is the protection. Your Hero's Cape, Luxurious Cape, Defiance Vest, free Jumbo Ice. And then, like I say, you got your Crispin and your Turbo Energize, not because they're particularly good for accelerating energy, but because they're better than anything else we have. And frankly, that is going to have to do. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know. That's how Mega Heracross is winning. And maybe it is going to end up being the thing that Crustle needs to start being a legit top-tier deck. Either way, I'd love to know your opinion. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Danger Morales, who's been a supporter of ours for a long time now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.